Okay, so these are the different steps which are taking place, or which are actually concerned with the symbiotic association of rhizobium and the roots of leguminous plants. Okay, so first is attachment of bacteria. Before that, as I told you, there is a recognition, some kind of signaling takes place between the bacteria and the root cells, and that signal actually will allow the bacteria to go to the root hair cells. Okay, and the root hair will give a positive gesture, okay, in a way, so that the root hair curling will take place. Then there will be a particular place which will be afforded to the bacteria for infection. Okay, the bacterial cells will start invading the plant root hair. Okay, and again, as I was telling you, that the words which I'm using here, infection or invasion, so these are actually taken from a positive angle. Okay, so this is actually not causing any damage to the plant, although there may be some abnormal structures like root nodules which will be formed on the roots, but it is nonetheless beneficial for the plant. Okay, so there is a formation of a shepherd's crook, that is the place where the infection will take place, and then that the organisms will proceed inside the cell, and as they proceed inside, as they infect the root hair, there will be something called as the infection thread development. Okay, that is actually the path of the organisms which are entering inside the roots. Okay, and then they will go towards the center, towards the cortical cells. They will invade the cortical cells, and then once they go inside the cortical cells, then that will cause the division of the cells. Okay, and that will result in kind of a swelling and the formation of a thick mass of cells, which is called as the nodule. Now, in this particular process, the organisms which are going inside, when they are invading the cortical cells and trying to, cause biochemical as well as structural changes in the cortical cells, something is happening to the bacterial cells, and these bacterial cells are getting converted into or transformed into a cell, a different type of a cell. Okay, and that cell is called as a bacteroid. Okay, so bacteroid actually is a differentiated form of the bacterium, and in this particular situation, in this particular differentiated state, these bacterial cells are capable of carrying out the process of nitrogen fixation very, very efficiently. Okay, so they are taking the nutrients from the plant, they are surviving inside the plant cells. Okay, and in return for that, they are going to convert nitrogen into nitrates, and these nitrates will be made available both for the bacteria themselves, and that will also be available to the plant body as such. Right, so whatever I told you, this is a schematic representation of all that description which I gave you. Let me make that slide larger for you to observe. Okay, so this is the plant which is growing in the soil, the roots are shown here, and then this is the root tip, and then these are the root hairs which are there. Okay, this is a magnified view of the root hair. Okay, there is something which the plant is going to secrete, some chemical or some biochemical which is going to be identified by the bacterial cell as a positive sign. Okay, that is an invitation the plant, the root hair is going to give to the bacterial cells, and with that invitation, the bacterial cells will go close to the root hair. Okay, in this particular zone, the rhizosphere. Okay, and then again, there should be some kind of a signaling between the two, root and the bacteria, and because of that signaling, the root will give a welcome call. Okay, it will invite the bacteria to go inside the root hair. Okay, so the initial part is the formation of the shepherd's crook. Okay, and then the bacteria will invade inside, and then as they go along inside, the path of the bacteria will be seen in the form of a infection thread. Okay, and infection thread actually is the empty space which is created for the invasion of the bacteria. The bacteria will go inside. Okay, they go to the cortical cells. Okay, the green colored cells, and inside these cortical cells, this bacteria, rhizobium, they will find the proper place where they want to carry out their role, where they want to settle down properly. Okay. And once they go inside, they will send some kind of a signal to the cells, and that signal will allow the cells to multiply very fast. Okay. So these cells will divide. Okay. Almost you can say very rapidly and uncontrollably. And because of that, this kind of a cancerous structure, you can call it, but it is not cancer actually. Okay. Because the mechanism is very much different, right? So these cells are dividing, and then they form the structure which is called as a nodule. And in this particular inset, you see the real nodule. It's a photograph taken for the alfalfa plant. Okay. And then if you peer inside this particular plant cell, then you find these bacteria. Okay. Bacteroids. Now they are already converted into or differentiated into a form which is called as a bacteroid. And in this particular form, the only function the bacterial cell has to do, or the bacteroid has to do, is to carry out nitrogen fixation. Okay. So it is getting all the nutrients and the necessary conditions from the plant cell, and it is making the nitrogen converted into ammonia, and ammonia into nitrates. And then these nitrates will be made available to the plant. Okay, I'll skip this slide. This is only a small extension of the earlier slide, but nothing more important here. Okay, the only thing is we are shown here is the number of genes here, the NOD genes. The NOD genes actually stand for nodulation genes. Okay, so some of these genes are important for the process of infection. We are not going into the genetics of this process. And then this is a very important thing which tells you about the signaling that takes place between the plant and the bacteria. Okay, so initially what happens is the plant genes which are coding for particular type of metabolites, okay, which are called as flavonoids. These flavonoids are expressed by the plant cells. Okay, and then these flavonoids which are made by the root cells, they are excreted from the roots into the soil. Okay, and then these excreted flavonoids, these are actually sensed by the bacteria. So there is a mechanism of biochemical sensing. Okay, and because of these flavonoids which are present now in the soil, the bacteria will be activated. The bacteria will be invited by the plant. Okay, and what actually happens is there is a gene called NOD-D1. Okay, NOD-D1. And this will be activated. The product of this gene, okay, capital N is the product of the gene. So that protein is a positive transcription activator. Okay, and this positive transcription activator will start all the sequence of nodulation factor synthesis. Okay, and when the nodulation factor is synthesized, then it will be useful for expression of all the NOD genes, that is the nodulation genes. Okay. And the mechanism by which the genes are expressed is by the binding of this nodulation factor to a particular box, which is called as NOD box. Okay, it is a sequence of nucleotides which is upstream of the NOD genes. So I hope you can understand the meaning of this term upstream and NOD box. NOD box actually is a sequence. Okay, it is a small sequence of nucleotides, and this sequence lies before the different genes for the nodulation. Okay, so that is why we call it as upstream NOD box, right? And then when this particular nodulation factor cause activation at this NOD box, then all the genes which are present in that operon, that is NOD ABC genes, these genes are induced. Okay, that is activated, and because of that, the bacteria are going to synthesize a chemical that is a lipopolysaccharide. Okay, oligosaccharide rather. Okay, and that lipo-oligosaccharide is a trigger for nodule formation. Okay, so whatever we have seen about the Shefford-Crook formation and the curling of the root hair, so all these events are actually directed by the bacterial cell. So what you have to understand from this slide is that there is a communication between the bacterial cells and the plant cell. That communication is very important. Okay, so plant will send out some signal, the bacteria will receive the signal, bacteria will send some signal, then the plant will receive the signal, then something will happen to the plant cell, then that will again give a signal to the bacterial cell. The bacterial cells will start differentiating. They will be converted into the bacteroids. Okay, plant cell will get the signal. The plant cells will divide. They will form the nodule. So it is a process of one-to-one communication, and it is a step-by-step communication between the two types of organisms. Are you understanding what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so there are different nod factors now which are going to be made by the bacteria. These bacterial nod factors will induce root hair curling in the plant. Okay, for example, nod I and nod J proteins. Okay, these are from the bacteria. And these bacterial proteins will allow the normal development of infection thread in the root cells, root hair. Okay, so the formation of infection thread actually is directed by the bacterial cells. Okay, and then in the meanwhile, bacteria differentiate into bacteroids. Now again, this signal is coming from the plants. Plant will synthesize something, some signal, some molecules, which are going to tell the bacterial cells to behave in a particular way, and that is to differentiate in a particular way. Okay, I hope you know this, the meaning of the term differentiation. Okay, a cell gets altered, okay, into a kind of a cell which is going to perform a particular function. So that we call as differentiation. Okay, now once the bacterial cells are differentiated into the bacteroids, then the inducible nod genes are switched off by negative regulatory control. So again and again, the same steps are not repeated. Once the role of the infection thread is over, then again and again, the infection thread will not be made in the same root hair, isn't it? So whatever is already done and it's not needed now, that process will be stopped. That is called differentiation. Okay, and then the plants will secrete at least one of the complex polysaccharide. For example, either it will synthesize what is called as succinoglycan or exopolysaccharide 2, or maybe a capsular polysaccharide containing 3-deoxy-D-mano-2-octyluzonic acid. Okay, so these different kinds of complex polysaccharides are made by the plants now in response to the bacteria which are entering into the cortical cells. These polysaccharides will allow the invasion of root nodule by bacteria. So it is like the plant is also supporting, okay, plant is supporting the infection of the bacteria, isn't it? The plant is allowing the infection to take place, indicating that this is not a pathogen which is going inside the plant. Had it been a pathogen, the plant cell would have resisted that, isn't it? Using some kind of, you can say, resistance mechanism, or even immunomodulation, or you can say some kind of immuno-based reaction. Even plants show immunity, isn't it, against the pathogens. So that immunity would have been activated. But here that is not the case. The plant is actually allowing the bacteria to invade the root cells up to the cortical cells, okay, and then take part in the nodule formation. Okay, so these polysaccharides then allow the invasion of the bacteria inside the root nodules, and early events in the nodule formation, that is to say the transport of dicarboxylic acid into the bacteria. Now dicarboxylic acids are required by the bacteria for their own survival. So it is like the substrate molecule for the bacteria, or nutrient for the bacteria. Okay, so transport of that particular molecule, the dicarboxylic acids, into the bacteria, that is under the control of genes. These genes are present on a plasmid in the bacteria. Okay, now that plasmid is also called as the symbiosis plasmid or the SYM plasmid. Okay, it is a large plasmid, and this plasmid has certain genes. These genes are required, or the products of the genes are required for entry of dicarboxylic acid, which are made by the plants inside the bacterium, transport into the bacteria. Was that clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the in gist. Okay, to summarize the plant bacteria relationship during the symbiosis between the rhizobia and plants. Okay, the plants provide reduced carbon such as dicarboxylic acids like succinate, malate, fumarate. Now all these molecules are the organic sources of energy. We have already seen how a particular molecule is used as the energy source, that is for the electrons, isn't it? So that is exactly what is happening. The dicarboxylic acids are made by plants, and these are supplied to the bacteria. Okay, these are the energy sources for fixation of nitrogen to ammonia. Okay, and they are also the substrates for respiration and nitrogen fixation, both together. Okay, so electrons are required for nitrogen fixation, and electrons are also required for respiration. So both the purposes are served by these dicarboxylic acids, which are made by the plants. So plant is not saying that you are an infectious agent, so don't come in my cells, okay, go away. It's not like that, but the plant is actually inviting the bacteria to invade the root. Okay. Then the megaplasmid in the bacteria, the same plasmid which I've already told you, that it also has certain genes which allow the transport of dicarboxylic acid into the bacterial cells. Okay, and we have already seen this point here. Okay, transport of dicarboxylic acid is because of the genes which are present on the same plasmid. Okay. Then another thing is ammonia released by the bacteria directly to the plant? And the answer is no, because nitrogen must be converted into ammonia, but this ammonia cannot be directly taken by the plant. In fact, this is converted into alanine or some other amino acids. Okay, and then these amino acids, alanine or glutamine, for example, these are eventually taken up by the plants, and then the other amino acids will be made by using these amino acids as the basic raw material. Okay, so I think, yes, that is with that slide, this particular topic is concluded. Okay, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Okay, now there is one more point which is remaining in this unit, that is nitrogen metabolism. Okay, that we are going to see in the next maybe 1 or 2 lectures. Okay, maybe I'll try to finish it off tomorrow. If not, then I'll require 2 days to complete that topic. And then the third unit also will be over. Any question?
No, sir.
Are you sure nobody is asking questions? Okay, then if you don't have question, then I will ask you a small question. And that is, if I can complete this particular unit today, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, then should we have an internal test on this unit in the next week, Monday? Okay, at the usual time, so that you get at least 3 or 4 days in between. Okay, if I complete it day after tomorrow, that is on Thursday. Okay, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, plus Monday, more than half of the Monday also you will get. So almost about 4 days you will get to revise this particular topic. Okay, what is the topic? Chemolithotrophy and nitrogen metabolism, the complete unit. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
4 days you are getting for preparation. So don't say that you won't have enough time, because if I don't take the exam on Monday, then maybe after some time, all the other teachers also would want to conduct their own exams for their own papers. And then it will be very difficult for you to manage everything. Okay, there will be too many internal tests in a week. That will be problematic for you. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you have enough
Yes,
time.
sir.
I suppose if there are difficulties, you can ask me. And then of course, I'm going to send you all the videos. I have already posted all the videos till yesterday, isn't it? So today's lectures also, I'm going to send the videos. You can go through the videos, prepare for the exam properly. And as I told you last time, that you should have the habit of reading the question properly. You have to understand the question, and only then you have to attempt the answer. Okay, one more very important thing I want to tell you is that in the last time before the exam, I had clearly specified that I am not going to entertain anybody who is going to submit the paper late, okay, after the stipulated time. Okay, and I told you that if there is any problem concerning the internet connection or whatever, you have to immediately tell me within 15 minutes after the end of the exam. But still there were some students who did not take the exam at the right time. Okay, they were late. Okay, I cannot allow you that, because if you have the problem, you have to immediately tell me. Okay. Almost the exam was almost over. 1 hour was almost completing, and then somebody told me that the student was unable to open the paper and write the answers. So that is not correct. If you have a problem, you have to tell me early. Okay. So your behavior should be a little responsible, isn't it? At the PG level, you should be a bit responsible. If you have any problem, I don't mind solving your problem. Okay, I'm there to solve your problems, but then you should be very prompt. You should tell me immediately if you have a problem. There's no point in telling me the problem after the exam is over, and then you're telling me that you couldn't log in or whatever, you couldn't open the paper, you couldn't open the link, and things like that. Okay, any question? If there is no question, then I will stop this lecture. Okay. End of the meeting. Goodbye.
Okay, sir.
Okay, bye.